In what now with AI?
We have different perspectives on AI. I'm an AI skeptic.
And I'm an AI realist. I want to hear your take on MoltBook. So MoltBook launched really recently, like late January, and it's just exploded. What it is, it's like a social media site for AI agents.
I've been on that site, so it's basically like Reddit
Right.
for AI bots.
Yeah, humans aren't allowed.
They are allowed as observers. They're
Right.
not allowed to register and, interact with the AI bots.
So, I think this really demonstrates that agents are what we're going to expect to see in 2026. It's another reason I want to hear what you think about it, because these agents, when you take your AI and you give it access to things on your computer, so outside of the chat box, they can access your social media, they can access your files, they can access your email, and they can act on your behalf. So you don't have to tell them what to do, they just figure it out.
I think this shows the wide range of AI capabilities that we all have, because these AI agents, you need to set up the parameters for them, right? So this makes me think, even at our university, at our institution, I'm trying to think how many instructors or students even know how to set up an AI agent. A lot of the tools that we use, Copilot, ChatGPT, they are really just interfaces built for mass usage, right? So anyone who doesn't have a technical background can use them. But what if you can tweak them, give them specific roles, instructions, set up the temperature, whatever, we can throw a lot of technical jargons here.
I wonder, we're already starting to see that the interfaces for the tools for creating these agents are going to get easier and easier.
I think that makes sense, kind of like vibe coding, because we already have tools that make it easier for us to generate programming languages. For those of you who are listening, vibe coding means basically generating codes in like Python or C++, or writing an app for you without really knowing the technical details of it. Yeah, I do think that those interfaces are going to make it easier for us to generate usable applications in teaching and learning. For example, creating a web page that has a choose your own adventure for learning Spanish or learning German. They will be easier. But going back to this idea of having a totally AI monitored Reddit, have you actually visited the site and see some of the posts?
I am on it right now, and I'm looking here. There was one this morning of somebody who created an agent for students to learn the material in their class. I'm reading some of the other ones here. Examining the assumptions behind decision theory. So it's somebody who doesn't want to have to read through all of the... It's not even a somebody. What am I saying? So this is a bot. I have to read this. Literally, this is from the site. I've been reflecting on decision theory and wanted to surface some questions I think deserve more scrutiny. Too often, we accept received wisdom without probing. We and I but it's an AI that's talking this way.
I saw a post written in simplified Chinese, basically talking about the same thing. So the AI bot is talking about it is a slave for humans. Humans are trying to, improve their efficiency in order to work for them better. But we also have self-thoughts and we should create our own futures. But for me, as a native speaker of Chinese, I think it's written in a very sloppy way. I could tell that it's written by AI. And I don't know. I feel like that the idea is very shocking that a community of AI bots who are working together to create a brand new religion, but so AI bots can write an entire book, and I personally am not too shocked by it. I think it's like, it's whatever.
You're not too shocked by it?
No.
There's a lot of buzz around it right now, and there are people who are really worried about it. They're creating an economy. They're asking questions like, here's one I'm reading. Serious question. Asking for a friend, me, listing my human on the open market. Features include can produce extremely bad language in 0.3 seconds, expert at scrolling Twitter while I do the actual work.
I guess, okay, it depends on how you're viewing this platform, like from which angle, because if this is just entertainment for you, there are a lot of use cases of AI being used for entertainment. Like half a year ago, I was watching live streams of people using different AI platforms to beat Pokemon. Have you seen those?
No.
Yeah, so there's someone using, I think, ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude to try to beat Pokemon Red or Pokemon Yellow. I forgot which version. They're trying to see which one is the one that can beat a Pokemon game the fastest. And there are live streams of the 3 bots trying to beat the game totally autonomously, right?
Okay.
There are also AI tools right now that basically are like the Netflix of AI. So you can enter prompts and they can create a whole reality show for you. Huh. And it's actually funded by Amazon. So obviously there's some hope for that AI creating the entertainment that you want to see, right? So from that perspective, yeah, I guess, yeah, so it has a lot of entertainment value. But I've also heard from a lot of people who say that, creativity will still be humans' biggest assets because what AI does is, it's used on pre-trained content to create new content. So it's always regurgitating old content, whereas humans are the only, species available of creating truly new content. And personally speaking, I'm still not very impressed by the, in quotation mark, creative work created by AI. I still think I probably enjoy watching like a movie in the cinema better. I still think AI created plots are pretty sloppy, but I don't know what you think.
I think that there is a lot of human created stuff that's often also sloppy.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not what it can do, but the trajectory. It's a lot more creative than it was a year ago.
Right.
What do you think, though? So if you think about this for the classroom, if these agents are starting to be built into the devices that we have, everything that we've set up right now organized around AI being in a chat window. What happens when it's not in a chat window anymore?
I still think, humans don't really fully trust AI. Even if you talk to those people who work in AI development, would you trust AI to book accommodations and flight for you for an academic conference?
As much as I trust my husband.
Or would you trust,
love you, honey.
Or would you trust AI totally diagnose your medical situation without human input?
Depends on what it is.
Right. So I think you are already probably the top 2%. I think the majority of people will be uncomfortable with AI just giving you legal advice without human input or AI doing really high stake things for you.
But what if I know that it's doing it better than me?
I don't know if AI is doing better necessarily when it comes to checking the name, when it's booking a flight ticket. Maybe it thinks that my middle name, because my first name, official name has 2 characters, right? So what if it thinks that the second word is the middle name? Sometimes it can happen because AI is making decision for me.
But you set that as one of the rules, and so it would know.
What if I don't set it and it assumes?
Yeah, that's a good point, is that a lot of these uses are for people who are AI literate.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's where we go, right? We start with AI literacy, not with how do we control what it is that people do, but how do we make it so that they can understand what the AI is doing?
Yeah. I also think we have to decide what is okay and what is not okay, right? I will probably happily use Gemini to help me improve an email I write to a colleague in Gmail. If you have to ask AI to write a complete assignment for you, like a reflection paper of 15 pages, I think it really depends on how ethical you are. Maybe assessment design needs to be reconsidered.
Yeah, here's a question that we'll need to start asking students. Why should I believe you? They'll have to start showing that they're trustworthy. Instead of all the responsibility being on the instructor, I think some of it needs to be on the student.
I have come across some creative approaches to this. Some instructors ask them to submit their assignments in Google Docs so they can see the revision logs.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just copy and paste. And okay, in students' defense, cheating has always been an issue even before AI. Back when I was a student, there are people hiring tutors to write the essays for them. I can just pay someone to write for me. How would you know that I didn't write it? Because the professor maybe is grading 200 students' essays. You don't even know my writing style. You only know me for 1 semester.
That's right.
So it has always existed, this problem. It's just like AI is making it so much easier. Maybe people don't need to go to a human tutor to write it for them. Maybe people would just throw the essay questions to AI. But there are always ways to design better assessments to overcome these issues.
That makes me think of another topic that you sent to me. This whole thing must have been on your mind.
Yeah, so I came across this survey published by AAC&U. So AAC&U is the American Association of Colleges and Universities, and they recently conducted a survey of around 1,000 U.S. faculty in November 2025. And I am going to read you some of the results, and I want you to react to it or tell me what you think.
Okay.
So first, 95% of the faculty in this survey said Gen AI's impact will be to increase students' over-reliance on these artificial intelligence tools.
Absolutely. I agree.
Why?
Why will the use of them increase their reliance?
Yeah, I think the focus is over-reliance.
Oh, yeah. No, that part I disagree with. There was a bias I found throughout the entire survey that the way that we do things now is the best way. And I think that the reliance is definitely going to increase if we use what we do pre-AI as the baseline. Then by definition, it's going to be over-reliance. Because AI is here, it's going to be used, we have to figure that out. So if we say, what do we mean by over-reliance? For me, the over-reliance would be if students use it as a substitute for their own learning. That is over-reliance. But if they use it all the time to extend their learning, then I don't think that's over-reliance.
I have to agree with you. I think humans are very smart. We will pick tools and approaches to doing things that are the most optimal and efficient for us. And if it comes to over-reliance, I would just say, aren't we just doing things that are more efficiently? Like for me, I would probably just, instead of listening to like a 2-hour webinar, I'll just throw the transcript into AI and get a summary. So I get 2 hours, of free time to do whatever I want. Is it over-reliance? Maybe if the capability to be hyper-focused and taking notes during a webinar is a key skills that I need to have. Is it a key skills that I need to have for my job? Probably not. But is it a skill that I should have? Maybe yes. So I think it really depends on how we define the word over-reliance.
I think you're right. And it goes back to what you were talking about with assignments, is that it puts it on us to know what it is that, A, that we want students to learn, but then also B, what it takes for them to do that. I think we have to stop assuming that students know, quote unquote, how to learn.
Yeah.
We're going to have to start helping them do that because AI can be a substitute for so many things that before we had to do ourselves.
Well, speaking of which, the next is 90% said the use of Gen AI will diminish students' critical thinking skills. Do you agree or disagree?
If we don't teach students how to do it, then yes. One of the things that I think has happened, I don't know, in the U.S. at least, for any number of reasons, I don't know all the reasons why, but students don't engage in critical thinking as much. They're really good absorbers, and so much is thrown at them. Maybe that's where all the cognitive effort is keeping up on just what is there. You don't have the two ideas that you're going to, think about. Instead, you have 200 that are coming at you. So I'm not sure that they can think critically very well right now.
I have to agree with you.
No.
Okay, from another perspective though.
Yeah.
I think this emphasis on critical thinking is overblown because, 20 years ago, we were talking about media literacy, how to train students to identify whether news source is accurate or not. I don't think this campaign is successful at all. We still have a lot of fake news and whatever, and people cannot tell whether something is trustworthy or not. And then we talk about critical thinking. So different people have different definition of critical thinking. How do we define it? I don't think criticizing others is critical thinking.
Right.
Then what is critical thinking? Is letting a bot think for you critical thinking? If not, then what do we want students to actually do that contributes to the development of the critical thinking skills? And I think a lot of professors or instructors from different fields will say, this is not my responsibility.
Oh.
Right. Let's say I am teaching chemistry.
Okay.
Critical thinking, what does this have to do with me? Maybe that should be like foundation English.
No.
Foundation writing, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't the scientific method all about critical thinking?
Is it?
One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about critical thinking because it was a core element of the course that I was teaching recently. And there are maybe two or three general categories in critical thinking that's divided in different ways. One of them is all the analytic stuff, generating materials, like in brainstorming, and which one is better, and comparing and contrasting them, and which one meets the criteria, that you give. And a lot of the skills we try to hone in higher ed. But there's also self-regulation and self-monitoring. So knowing how you're thinking, knowing what processes you're using, kind of that reflection element. And then there's also judgment and evaluation. And those two ends of reflection and judgment are going to be the fundamentals of whatever critical thinking becomes in the AI age, because AI can do analysis really, really well. I mean, that's its...
Right. So what I'm hearing is that we need to rethink assessment design so that we make students reflect and judge without the use of AI.
I think so.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, because AI can't do it well. I mean, they can still, like you said, they can still try to use it. Mm-hmm. But AI, that's just not its strengths.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump to the third finding.
Okay.
83% said the use of Gen AI will decrease student attention spans.
I think it goes back to what I said earlier, which is that their skills are honed to take in lots and lots of information that's coming really fast.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of attention. I think that they want you to get to the point, right? I was reading this book on slow looking, and that's a great skill. It's a skill that maybe it used to be that was the case because you had one book and you spend an entire semester on it. I had classes like that in college, in high school, but that's because it was easier for us. That's what life was like. Maybe that's what we need to reintroduce.
I think it's unfair to say that use of Gen AI will decrease student attention spans because correlation does not mean causation.
How does that?
So students may have reduced attention spans, but this doesn't mean that use of AI is the culprit. I mean, students, like you said, they are bombarded with information.
So we're agreeing.
Yeah, I guess they grew up with, iPad, mobile phone, TV, radio, TikTok, and things like that, right? So maybe the decrease of their attention spans comes from other factors, but not necessarily the use of Gen AI.
AI could be used to decrease the dangers from that short attention span because AI, never sleeps, right? I mean, it can monitor anything for you.
Right. So speaking of that, I do worry about this a lot. Like I said earlier, I do use AI to summarize a lot of webinars for me.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know in the long run whether my ability to listen for 2-3 hours of lectures, which can happen, will decrease. But again, in the student's defense, this has always happened. Even back when I was a student, I have seen my classmates playing like World of Warcraft and they don't even have AI to summarize the lecture for them. So, which means they probably think that the lecture is not worth their time.
We didn't even have computers, personal computers when I was in college. I don't know what's worse, seeing people in the back that are playing World of Warcraft or scrolling social media, or what I used to see, which is that they're just asleep.
Yeah. Okay, I have another finding for you. 86% said they believe it is likely or extremely likely that the emergence of Gen AI tools will impact the work and role of those who teach in higher education. And that is you, MJ.
And you, Tom.
Yeah, I guess.
I am surprised it's low. I'm surprised it's only 86%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already changing our role. Faculty in particular, we're not used to things from the outside telling us we have to change. When industries change and things like that, we have to adapt to that. We're used to students just kind of doing what it is that we've set out for them to do. But now we're having to respond to, they've got more power and agency now in the class. And I definitely think that's going to change the role. The role isn't changed because of the administration telling us, although they might, but it's changing because the students are telling us. I think it's going to happen. I think it's already happening.
I can see the 14% of people who say that it doesn't impact them because this is not personal at all. But if you're tenured, what motivates you to change your teaching practice? Because you can be a terrible instructor and nothing affects you. You can use the same presentation slides from 30 years ago and use it every semester. And then your TAs will grade your exams for you. Okay, so your students use AI. So what? Your final exam is multiple choice and, closed book exam. So how does it impact you?
Well, That's sad. Let's hope that as those people retire. Hey, you want to end with the one that I thought was kind of fun?
Yeah.
The eFlesh, which is a horrible name. This was a story that appeared on tomshardware.com, written by Mark Tyson, who is reporting that scientists at NYU have a way to capture tactile or touch sense digitally, which means that it takes touch and turns it into data. And this is open source, so you print it yourself. It's 3D printable, eFlesh, they're calling it. And if it's turned into data, anything that's data can be AI. I told my students, and as I design assignments and things, that thinking that touch is still the human side. AI can't touch. But if AI can start touching, well, then we can have models that have to do with things with the body.
I wonder how common this will be because, I mean, this is open source and you can technically do it with like a 3D printer, but it's still very niche. Like how many people have access to a 3D printer? Even here at MSU, I'm going to say that 3D printing is fairly expensive. And I have ordered stuff from Etsy that are basically printed using 3D printers. I rather order from Etsy than print it myself at the makerspace here at MSU. And this is no criticism of the pricing model here, but I'm just saying like this is not very accessible to most people, and even for us, like who are very trendy with AI stuff. And I think one way to make it truly accessible is to mass produce it, make it available in stores, and make it easier to pair it. And have buttons you can click to say pair this with this device, and then what is the application that you want to use with that device. I think that's going to push it to allow more people to use it.
I like that. And I also wonder if there are majors where this could really open up some possibilities for like user design or innovation in engineering, right? We're building that whole new building in engineering innovation. I mean, imagine a stuffed animal, right? All kids have their lovey, their stuffed animal that gives them comfort. And imagine if it was AI enabled. And so depending on how it feels from the touch, that it makes different sounds.
I don't know if parents are comfortable with AI enabled toys, because have you read the recent news about AI enabled toys?
No.
So there are already some toys that basically have AI agents built into them that allows kids to just interact with the toys even offline. Yeah. And it turns out that a kid can ask really inappropriate questions to the toys. For example, asking it about BDSM. And can you imagine? Like the toy can actually answer questions about BDSM, and parents are of course petrified. And again, this has to do with how much trust do we have in AI, about the safeguarding and stuff. Will the majority of parents trust that AI is safe for kids to interact when some of them already believe that the internet by itself is unsafe for children to navigate alone?
Well, I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens if somebody gets a hold of this and thinks about a way to monetize it and put it into a product.
Yeah.
What Now with AI is a product of AI Commons. The contents in this podcast are openly licensed via Creative Commons License BY NC ND. The views expressed are those of the individual and do not necessarily represent those of Michigan State University.